What's up, guys? Anthony here. Empire Music, empiremusic.com. Phone number at the shop, 412-343-5299. Well, something a little bit different in my hands here, and it's cool to see this iconic shape here at Empire Music. We're really proud to bring on Ernie Ball, Music Man. So, you know, we're a massive Fender dealer, and you want to talk about iconic shapes. You have the precision bass, you have the jazz bass, but, you know, there's very few basses outside of those that pop into your mind when you think of iconic basses, basses that really had a large part in forging what modern music is. And obviously, the fountainhead of that is the P bass moving into the jazz bass. And you have companies like Hofner when you think of Paul McCartney. You have Rickenbacker basses. But then, like, right there with those, under them, above them, however you want to look at it, is the StingRay. This is really important. This directly comes out. There's ties to Fender. There's ties to a lot of famous music. I know for me, growing up, and I've alluded to this before in videos, and I won't spend a lot of time on it, I promise, although I say that every time too. The Flea video, you know, when I was growing up, I remember my father bringing home the VHS tape, for those old school out there, before DVDs, the Hot Licks, when River Phoenix interviewed Flea, and he was playing, if I recall correctly, a Butterscotch Music Man, maybe it was Sunburst, a StingRay. And I thought that was the coolest bass at the time, and I had a P bass at the time. I was like, nah, I gotta get the Music Man thing. And then maybe the next week, my father brings home the Louis Johnson Hot Licks VHS, where he's doing all that crazy slapping on, and that was on I believe the Butterscotch Blonde StingRay. So I might have those backwards. Or I could just be misremembering this. It was a long time ago. But if you get a chance, check out that Louis Johnson video. I know there's clips of it on YouTube. It's absolutely incredible. But so, you know, Music Man basses, that's my early, you know, memory of, oh, that's not a Fender. That's something different, you know? And it really was the inception of the active electronics. When I speak of active electronics, just to kind of recap, we talk about passive or active in basses. Passive would have no battery to it. So think about a P bass. Volume and tone. You think about a jazz bass, volume, tone. That's a passive electronic system, meaning there's nothing powering that. We just have, capacitors and resistors essentially sculpting the tone depending on what we're doing with the tone knob. In the case of active electronics, it's going to require a 9-volt battery, in this case 2 9-volt batteries, meaning it's an 18-volt preamp system. And what you have is an EQ circuit. So you think about your car stereo out there. That's dating myself again. We're talking about VHS tapes and car stereos. When you think about an EQ section on anything, your Bluetooth speaker, let's put it that way, or something in your phone, when you're controlling bass, treble, or treble, middle, and bass. So in the case of when we speak about this on a bass guitar, Generally speaking, you're going to be able to cut or boost specific frequencies within those frequency bands, right? So in the case of the Music Man here, all we have is a volume knob. Then we have a treble, a middle, and a bass control. There's a little detent position. When I say detent, that means there's a spot where it kind of notches in the middle. At that point, you're flat on those frequencies. What the frequencies are, that's dictated by how the preamp functions. They're all a little bit different. Sometimes you have selectable frequencies that you can cut and boost, not in this particular case. So we're either cutting treble, mids, bass, or we're boosting treble, mids, bass, or they're just flat. They're at the natural kind of band that is there set, right? And if you look on the back of here, you do have two 9-volt battery compartments that would essentially be powering this preamp, right? Now, body wood on this guy. Select hardwoods, they call it. Generally, we're speaking about ash, but occasionally we've seen poplar, alder. Those are very typical base body woods that come out in many different lines. I know with Fender, we a lot of times see alder or we see ash. In this case, I'm just gonna guess that this is an ash body. It kind of looks like it. This is in translucent oxblood with the black pick guard on it. And that's an iconic look too. I mean, that's such a defining thing on the Music Man. Occasionally when we get into some of the 5 strings, we see a slightly different, more like almost like a teardrop kind of a pick guard shape on it, but I really love it on the Classic. And then the pickup in this, now that's gone through some iterations throughout the years too. They started out with an Alnico magnet, ceramic made its appearance, and I think still makes its appearance down in the Sterling line. These have neodymium magnets in it, and I think that's really nice because it saves some weight. I've definitely experienced playing Music Man basses in the past that were pretty heavy, and when you're talking about Alnico magnets and just these really big humbucking pickups in it, can add some weight back there. But this thing's, I think, 8 pounds, 6 ounces. It's really, really light and ergonomic. Roasted maple neck. It's an 11-inch fretboard radius. It has a gun oil rubbed satin finish on it that feels absolutely incredible. Stainless steel frets. Roasted maple fretboard on it. It's not a one-piece neck. You have a fretboard and a separate neck on that. You have a string tree or a rotating truss rod adjustment down here at the heel, but it's accessible, so you don't have to take the neck off. Width on this is, I believe, 1 11/16, which that comes out a little bit under like what a vintage P bass would be at 11 3/4. I believe it's like 1.68 is what 11 16ths come out to. And then the 3-in-1 headstock, which is also iconic on the Music Man. And I'll say this, these feel really good. They're thicker and they have like a little bit more of they feel different than the Fender ones. The Fender, there's varying degrees of thickness where it kind of tapers out towards the end. They feel great, lightweight tuners. The bass feels awesome. Contoured neck heel, 5-bolt system on it. Neck pocket looks beautiful. It's so cool to see these in the shop. It's so cool to feel these in the hand. Oh, and the brass not there. So nice, good resonance sound out of it. The break angle is really nice on it. I think we have 4 of these in stock, and we've gotten them in used over the years. I've always been really impressed with the Music Man thing. I'm always impressed with the Fender thing, but now we have this. It's really cool to have something different in the shop. We can juxtapose the classic Fender thing with the classic StingRay vibe, right? And the modern StingRay vibe, just like we have modern Fender products. It's really nice to have this wider breadth of available options to give our customers. And as I learn more and more about these basses, I'm nothing but impressed with them. And sonically, they bring a lot to the table, as we'll hear in a second. So this one has the maple fretboard on it. You also see these come through with an ebony fretboard or a rosewood fretboard. And that's still part of the learning process here that I have at Empire Music, and I'm really enjoying learning how these pickups, this EQ, reacts to the fretboard. I feel really dialed in when I start talking about a P bass or a jazz bass, knowing what those pickups are going to give me in unison with the fretboard. But here we have something a little bit different, so it's really fun to start wrapping my head around these different tonal options. So at the beginning of the video there, when I was playing, I just had bass boosted ever so slightly. There's no pickup switching on this either. So when I'll go back to the P bass, the beauty of a precision bass is you just don't have a lot of options. It's all about moving your hand around. And where the P bass pickup is somewhere in this position, the Music Man humbucker is back towards the bridge. So we're like in 60s and 70s, more like 60s position on a jazz bass, but you have this wider pickup. So it's really its own thing. I'm trying to kind of break that habit in my head of always referencing something that I already know. This is something new, right? But a lot of it just comes from moving your hand around as far as the tonal variation. But then we do have the EQ section in this. So let's start flat. So flat, treble, middle, and bass. Let's move our hand around. Let's just experience some of these tones. And I love doing these videos because in a very real-time fashion, granted, we could edit this. We only edit this if I screw up. And I never screw up. None of us here. We're one take all the way through. I promise you. There's no editing at all that goes on in this video, right? Right? You believe us, right? No, but really, I love the ability to have kind of a real-time view with you, the audience out there, and like get to experience new basses or old basses, whatever it is. So let's just do that. Again, everything flat. Let's move our hand around. Let's just experience what this StingRay gives us. So right there, I would normally play a P bass, right? So like, think about that P bass pickup would be there. And now it's not there. And man, the tone is different. I love it. It's like a pumped up jazz bass, you know, on the bridge position, but without the weakness that sort of provides. There's still a nice amount of low end, and like that focus is in the mid range there. Very cool. Move our hand back. Very, very interesting. Like that seemed playing very simple. I always play simple things, but just figuring it out on the fly there. My first impression of that, and it's so weird that I'm giving a first impression on a bass that's been around for 50 years or longer. But I don't have a ton of experience with these, and this is a real joy to kind of get to know these instruments. It's the simplicity of a P bass, but it's the opposite of a P bass because the louder and fuller sound is actually back here, whereas a P bass, that's like the weaker sound. It's still cool. It's just different, and like almost pulling more low end out back here because you're closer to the pickup, and rather than it rounding out fiercely like it would with a P bass, it's kind of doing the opposite. You do get a rounder overall tone, but it's weaker as you get up here. Again, it's really cool. This is like the total opposite of what a precision bass gives you, but it sounds great. And I mean, I can only imagine, and I mean, I'm sure one of these is going to make its way into my collection over the next year or so of us carrying the stuff. That's a no-brainer, but I bet it just sits so perfectly in a mix. And the Music Man sound, it's funny, it's a more modern player, but I think of like the Joe Dart thing, the Joe Dart sound. That's like become what I associate with these like single pickup Music Mans, and it's really cool. So let's where I had it, you know, in my brief time with it, what I was really enjoying was keeping these two flat and just boosting bass considerably. I'd say giving it a 20% boost. Let's see where that gets us. Yeah, that kind of makes up for what I'm not getting and that I'm just used to with a P bass. I don't know that that's necessarily the best representation of the instrument. I'm sure there's a lot of people that play it that way, but to me, it just gets it a little bit back to home base for me, no pun intended. So let's kind of just explore kind of the same way with that. Everything flat, slightly boosted, about 20% boosted bass. Before I go any further, I will say this, it is crystal clear sonically. Every note pronounces beautifully on this instrument. It's kind of, I meant to say that earlier. It's really, really nice. And man, like that is, to me, for right now, like I just want to go record this bass like on that setting and see where that gets me. Let's go back, let's boost a little bit of everything. Let's get into like ultra active territory. So we're boosting treble, bass, mids. Yeah, let's go there. Harmonics ring out really well, as I would expect they would, being at this pickup position, and it's powerful. It's a strong, powerful bass, and really excited to have these here in the shop. So this is kind of Empire Music's introduction of these iconic basses in the shop. This is the I'm gonna say this a bunch of times, probably gonna get it wrong at the front here. Ernie Ball Music Man StingRay Special H. That means single pickup, 4-string. This one is in translucent oxblood. Keep an eye on the website, which is empiremusic.com. There's a lot more of this to come from Ernie Ball. Guitar, basses, all that stuff. And keep in mind, if you're looking at the website, any photo you see on there, no stock photo, so you'll see a little 5-digit number in there. That means that's that exact bass. So if you see, I know we have a purple sunset one in stock. You can see the grain pattern on that. It's gonna be that exact bass. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out, 412-343-5299. You can also email me directly. It's anthony@empiremusic.com. Again, really excited to have the Ernie Ball, the Music Man series in here to join. We already have some great iconic basses. P bass, J bass. Well, now we got the StingRays to add to it. So more on this as we move forward. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.